Banchi has not responded till now. Wonder what is going on. Namaste to all the attendees and welcome to the Sunday EST webinar. And it's Monday morning in India. I would like to begin with welcoming all of you to this webinar. Our special guest for today is Ratanji Sharda, and he will be joining us in just a moment. And as we wait for him, if you can drop in the chat box where you all are attending from, joining us from. It would be great to know where you're all joining from. And by the way, our usual host, Ankur Patel, has just gotten, his wedding was yesterday, 18th January. And congratulations to Ankur Patel and congratulations to the entire family. Poonam from Philadelphia. Welcome, Poonam. Suhasini Gunaratnam from Malaysia. Yogini Kulkarni Sharma, Seattle, Professor M. Goel from Kurukshetra. Wow. Welcome, Makaran from New York, congratulating Ankur. Mukta Panda from Tamil Nadu, Shweta Singh from Tokyo. Awesome. So, our topic for today is the importance of Hindu studies as an academic discipline. In other words, the importance of taking up Hindu studies as an academic discipline. We're still waiting on Ratanji to join us. So typically, our webinars are usually about the courses for that quarter or for that semester. But today's webinar is going to be a little different. Our guest, Ratanji, said that he would like to take it up as a Q&A session. So he will be happy to answer questions. After his brief introduction on why we as Hindus in this day and age must engage in Hindu studies as an academic discipline. After he presents his introductory remarks, he would like to open the webinar for any questions and he would be happy to answer those questions. Namaste, Indrani Ram Prasad from Varanasi. Lorianne, New Jersey. Ravi Khanna, congratulations to Ankur. Ravi Khanna from Springfield, Ohio. Ratanji is joining in just a minute. He's just responded. Keshav Goel from California. I hope you and your family is safe with all the fire, Keshavji. Kushal is asking for the link.
Yeah, I have sent him twice, so I'm just sending him on the message.
Yeah, please. My sincere apologies for keeping you waiting. Ratanji is finding it difficult to join using the link. There he is. Namaste, Ratanji. Thank you for joining.
Namaste.
So, Ratanji needs no introduction. He's Dr. Ratan Sharda. He's been awarded PhD for his research on RSS, understanding RSS through its resolutions with focus on Northeast, Punjab, and Jammu Kashmir. He is an alumni of uh, St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, and a PG in political science and economics. He has written 10 books in English and Hindi, of which 7 are on RSS. He has translated two important books on Sri Guruji by veteran RSS thinker Ranga Hariji. He has edited slash designed 16 books. Dr. Sharda uh, also wrote a trilogy, RSS 360, Demystifying Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, RSS Evolution from an Organization to a Movement and Conflict Resolution, The RSS Way, and these are considered as the best introductions to RSS. He has been a member of RSS since childhood and he has held various positions from Shakha to national level. And we see him every other day as a TV panelist and he's a public speaker. He has traveled widely in Bharat and around 26 countries. He's involved in social activism, seva, and advising social service organizations. And we are honored to have him as our guest today. Thank you so much, Ratanji, for your valuable time. And thank you for joining us. And Ratanji will be answering, he'll be giving us a brief introduction about today's topic, and which is why should we engage in Hindu studies in the academic study of Hinduism? In other words, Hinduism, why should we take up Hinduism as an academic discipline? So, after he puts across his introductory remarks, he would like to open the webinar for questions, and he is happy to answer any questions that you may have. Over to you, Ratanji.
Namaste, Esther. First of all, my apologies for being late. Generally, I'm not late. I'm before the audience. But today,
You're from
somehow
RSS.
something.
Yeah, we will
Yeah.
have
So my
discussed.
hearty apologies today for being late today. We had touched upon this topic a few weeks back on Hindu University of America webinar also about fundraising, and this topic has been brought up again. And I would like to open up by saying that my own interest in looking at how academically you can fight arguments, you can fight narratives, and present a viewpoint started from the book I received from somebody of Invading the Sacred by Rajiv Malhotra ji. This book was eye-opening. This book was shocking. The way Hindus have been demonized, the way Hindus have been ridiculed in a very subtle way by presenting academic arguments which have no standing. That is the beauty. So you can insult, you can ridicule Bhagwan Ganesh with some sexual innuendos. You can ridicule Swami Vivekananda and Swami Ramakrishna Paramhans with some innuendos without any proof, without any evidence. But because it has been printed in academic journals, because there is no counter and because they are controlling that academic space, these things become established truth. Because once they are produced, others will keep on repeating, referring to them in different ways, in different contexts, and it is like an incestuous circle where you keep on quoting each other without any base. If there are young people here, I suppose, who are not at all aware of the Ram Janmabhoomi legal side, where evidence was compiled by Vishnu Parishad about the evidence of Ram Janmabhoomi being there for centuries, from various religious texts, from academic texts and scriptures. And Muslim side presented its view that it is a Waqf property and it is a Muslim mosque and there is nothing behind under it. And when this entire thing was produced in the courts, first during the reconciliation meetings where they tried to find some kind of midway, and Vishnu Parishad came fully armed, and the historians, so-called historians, whom today we call historians, including R.M. Sharma, Romilya Thapar group from JNU, they did not expect such evidence to be thrown at their face. When they saw the evidence, they said, "We have not studied, give us more time." Second meeting, they again said, "Give us more time." Third time, they disappeared. They didn't come for the meeting. In the High Court, so they abandoned the entire practice. Then they wrote a letter saying how false history is being projected without even reading a single page or even contradicting any of the statements. So there are newspaper articles in the High Court. When the judge started grilling these so-called scholars, it turned out that actually none of them knew archaeology, none of them knew the scriptures, none of them had actually gone there and studied the place, but they were quoting each other. So a student was quoting the guide of her guide, and guide was quoting somebody else, like the famous myth of Hindus having destroyed the Hindu temples. When Sitaram Goel wrote a letter asking Romila Thakur to produce an evidence, that letter remained unanswered for years together, but because she controlled the academics, this truth is repeated time and again. Even today, just last week, this untruth was again repeated because it was cited by some people who had no evidence about it. So that is why I showed you some negative side of how these narratives are created, and also the positive side how Ram Mandir evidence was avoided and then shown as fake. Even today after the judgment, that is what is being said. And now as I move ahead, in fact, celebrating the sacred and also the refusal of the mainstream media and the intellectual class to look at RSS as something more than a rhetorical communal force or a force that created riots, which was extremist, and none of its seva work, none of its discipline, none of its character building characteristics, none of its very famous pracharaks who became huge leaders in their own field, like Dattopant Thengdi or Deendayal Upadhyay, with very original ideological ideas. They simply kept on avoiding it. And during those days when I was a young boy, I could see that none of this was totally avoided by the media. There was no coverage, there was no academic studies. In fact, you'll be surprised that on Hindu Dharma, on RSS, on such organizations, there is hardly any research or thesis. While there could have been hundreds of such theses and papers, it didn't happen. Even in case where there is something slightly less negative, it is done by people who are known as, who were stamped as leftists, but once they wrote those tomes, there is Malini Bhattacharya today in Vipro University, who had some inkling, who wrote a book about seva work with an angle, leftist angle, saying how they use religion. Even that was taken very unkindly by the leftist academics. She was kind of set aside, not given any importance. And then she wrote an essay also about Northeast work of RSS, how it impacted the outcome of the elections in Northeast and how it changed the scope of Northeast. She was an academic, she is an academic, she teaches, but then she has become an untouchable in the leftist circles. These were also done by people who are not from RSS background. And if you go, so that led me to write books That led me to do a lot of research. I am not a researcher. I was a ERP consultant, and I was not among the supposedly intellectual Swayamsevaks. But that urge to tell the truth, the urge to tell the other side, the urge to let people know with evidence, because this particular issue of reference is very important. Because if you look at earlier books of RSS, those books have been written by veterans who were in the field for many, many years, who sacrificed their everything. And having done that, but their works were not referred because they didn't have historical references. They were their own experiences. And if you remember, the 1960 to 63 Republic Day parade of RSS was said to be a myth, despite newspaper reports. Now videos have been made of the people who were there in the parade, but it is being negated. Somebody filed an RTI asking the answer to this. So this is how you try to negate the entire story. So that led me to write books with some references which cannot be challenged. And I use references from Western world, not just from RSS leaders. So that made it a little more objective for the people who did not know. Now to more deeper issue, how does a narrative get built? How does an academic study build up as a movement? How it affects the movement? You can go to Karl Marx and Engels. When did they write Das Kapital? When did they write their tomes, which led to creation? And somebody put out the poll detail. Okay, so they wrote somewhere in 19th century, and how it was picked up by various elite classes, and how it became a global anthem for justice to the labor, and how capitalism was exploiting. Some scientific theories were produced which were not really scientific. And only if you look at the challenge to that particular narrative, there was hardly any challenge despite its failures. So you have this Russian Revolution, you have Chinese Revolution, you have North Korea, and some more. But these revolutions were not as per Marx predictions. They were not industrial societies. They were agrarian societies. And as the revolution spread, Dattappan Tengri, way back in 1968, 69, I believe, wrote a monograph saying how it will fail, despite when it was shining like a bright star all over the world, and people thought that is the only alternative. And that alternative cost 110 million lives to prove that they were right and prove that what was right. Now, when this was done, but slowly, how you see that over a period of decades and decades, Marxism became an established academic theory. It became an established viewpoint that decided how the world will think, how world will move. Now, if you go further, you look at Gramsci, who created this cultural studies. Actually, he didn't create, but who gave the basis for the cultural studies. He was jailed in Italy. He wrote his diary somewhere in 1935. He died. His diaries came out. People studied the diaries. Now, the diaries contain the seeds of the cultural studies of neo-left that you see today, very turned upside down the entire Marxian theory that your culture is decided by your industry, your capital. He said that actually culture is what decides. The dominating culture is what decides the narrative of society, and the exploitation, everywhere there is exploitation, at every level, at every community level, there are groups who actually try to exploit the lower group. And in short, so this theory came up in 1935. Then in 1964, there was Birmingham School in UK, which ran for some years. Then it closed shop. It reached Harvard. And from there on, you see this new left, the woke studies that you see today, cultural study, the wokeism that you see today, that is wreaking havoc across the globe. Most of the Western world is down to its knees on these particular theories. Societies have been disturbed, families have been destroyed, societies have been crumbling. We have survived because we are very ancient society with very strong roots. But that Gramsci's thought came to India somewhere in 1983, immediately as it reached Harvard. Its seeds were sown in JNU, and slowly as the leftists took control over the academia, they were able to create about 100 plus central universities, and those universities opened up cultural studies centers under the section of literature, because that is where the thing started in Birmingham. That culture in English, in English literature or introduces English literature. And this particular, then these people have, nobody else had teachers. So faculty went from JNU in all the 100 universities, and a very strong seed of wokeism in Bharat also. So how many years it took? It took only a century from what we see today. Now, if you go further into Indian history, uh, Macauliffe wrote the Sikh history and translated Sikh scriptures somewhere in 18th century, late 18th century. He left India. That was done in collaboration with Khan Singh Nabha, who wrote Why I'm Not a Hindu. Then British created Sikh Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee way back somewhere in 1925, and the seeds of separation of Sikh society from the Hindu society took some base. And from there on, as we move forward, you see how the separatism evolved, how it became a cause for major agitations, how the governments didn't see through that, and they tried to suppress the voice of Sikhs, even which was legitimate because they wanted certain political power. But those theories came up. How, but that the way you see that today's youth is totally deracinated, totally away from Hindu society, results from that history written, which is being used to create a fake history of Sikhs in the official channels, in their Wikipedias, in their own books, in their own Gurudwaras. So the 100 years of effort put in somewhere way back in 19th century resulted in this huge hiatus between the Sikh community and the Hindu community, which were like inseparable, like nail and the skin, because every family in Punjab has some relative, some son who has become Sikh because that is the tradition was. So you will see how that particular movement resulted in separatism. Now you look at Adhikari theory, which was written in 1943, I think, which stated that India is not a nation, which basically cemented the British argument. It was made of 18 nations. So before British go, they must create those 18 nations, and that is how it should be looked at. So this theory of India being a federation that you see today, that theory is not today's theory. This theory was seeded in 1943 by communists that resulted in Pakistan, that resulted in separatism in Kashmir, that resulted in rebellion in Andhra Pradesh. At that time, it was not Telangana, for 3-4 years before it was crushed by the military and they joined the mainstream. So this is how academic theory is built up over years, take ground, and slowly create an environment where the theory is created, thus written with care, written with a lot of effort and research, become the ground for changing the realities of the world, changing the social environment, changing the political environment, and changing the entire narrative of the world. You look at Islam, how Islam, first it was Christian church which controlled the Western academia. They paid the money, so you had wonderful studies on Christianity. And you had universities which had courses called apologia, writing or arguing about the negative aspects of Bible or Christianity. So once these people got, they didn't have money. The Middle East sultans threw money in American universities, and Islam became acceptable. They had studies which created words like Islamophobia. It became a religion of peace, and this Islamophobia has become an accepted term now. But we could not do it in USA, despite having such a wonderful community, which is the best citizen, which is the best earning, which is the best educated community. It has been neglected. It is still being demonized by likes of Wendy Doniger and Audrey Tushke now. So that is why in understanding and writing academic papers, studying academia, and working in that field becomes very important, because you may think that what is the importance of a paper or a particular book, but that can impact the coming years for century or more. So with this opening remarks, I'll close my comments, and you can go ahead and discuss this. You can have your own viewpoints, you can share your views, and then we can discuss it further.
Thank you so much, Ratanji. I can completely relate with that. I come from a Christian academic background. I have a PhD oriented master's degree in Christian divinity, Christian theological studies, basically apologetics, defending the Christian faith and Christian scripture against criticism. So,
Yeah, actually, I remember your case, and I was not sure that you are the one who did it. So that's why I didn't take your name. I know because this curiosity was because of your articles and your interviews only. I must admit that. So because that is what opened my eyes to entire academia of Christianity.
thank you so much. So, yeah, I can relate to that writing of papers and how the information is disseminated. And as a student in seminary, students like me would write sermons that are then dispensed off into the churches across the world. So, whatever the pastors preach from the pulpits were sermons written by students of seminary, and guilty as charged. I had, as a student of seminary, I had written several papers that are then used by the Christian church or Christian pastors. So the academic study of religion, I don't think Hindus have gotten it yet, but the Christians and the Muslims, the Islamic entire, both the ecosystems have completely understood the value of religious education. So it's about time that Hindus understand how important academic study of Hinduism is, and that's one of our that's our major purpose. The mission of HUA is to raise scholars that can tell the Hindu story through the Hindu lens in an academic setup, academic environment. Yeah, we don't have enough people to counter the narratives that are being peddled in the academic area. So that is what HUA is striving to do. And thank you so much for throwing light on that today. Uh,
I see some comments here.
yes.
One is that India has started Hindu studies. You're right. It started just last 4 5 years. This is a new movement, and courses are there. But they have no much. They don't have much of a future as of today in
Mhm.
academics as professors or earnings, because academia in US or Western world earns very good money out of their practice of these ideas of writing those papers and presenting seminars. In Bharat, these people, whether they are doing Shastri or whether doing these studies, right now don't know where they will get employed, because it is not, ecosystem is not yet ready. And also this needs, for example, I did my PhD of Hindu University of America when the thing was just started. So it takes time to take roots. That's why I gave the idea that it took 100 years. Now, for example, the leftist ecosystem in Bharat started building in 1942-43, took roots under Nehru, then it prospered under Indira Gandhi. And of course, Congress had outsourced its entire intellectual activity to the left. And that is why you find such strong base, which is very difficult to defeat so far, like the famous dialogue in Kashmir files. Sarkar tumhari hai, system hamara hai. So we must understand it takes time to take roots. It also takes much more serious way. I know some of the courses which are being charged heavily by some of the universities claiming to be doing studies of Hindu culture and knowledge system, etc. But they're outrageously big fees, and I think this will take some time to take roots. And more works which are being mentioned here, are yes, they are there. But as I said, the number of people are taking up research and who will find avenues of employment, because ultimately, if their stomach is full, the brain works. Bhuke bhajan na hoi gopala. So I did because I had other source of income. People so far who write for this have other sources of income, but this has to become the complete ecosystem by itself. So that is the reason I raised the issue of some of the ideas taking most of the ideas taking nearly a century to become what they are today, the dominance they have today.
Correct. Yeah, so we will open the floor for questions. We are
Just
good.
one more incident, because I read it only yesterday. I am writing a book on Hindu Swayamsevak Sangh history, and there is an incident of I think 1978 or something in UK, where there were comic books produced meet the pocket, the monster in the pocket, and it had cartoons of Bhagwan Ganesh. The Hindu community there stood up. They fought a legal battle. The company had to withdraw those offensive cartoons. They had to apologize there, or they were supposed to pay penalty. So something that happened in 1978 is still happening. So understand how deeply ingrained these academics are, how deeply ingrained these ideas become if we don't counter them with our own narrative.
Absolutely. So we will, Ratanji, open the floor for questions. There are
There is
other
a
people
question
who
from
have.
Indrani Ramprasad. Do you agree with the use of term Hinduism as against Sanatan Dharma, Hindutva, Hindu civilization? So there are two views. We have been fighting against the use of this term Hinduism because it is not an ism. Community is an ism. Islam is an ism, and Christian is an ism because they have a fixed ideology which never alters, which doesn't change, it doesn't modify. So Hinduism cannot be called Hinduism. Hindu, I call it always called Hindu Dharma. Sanatan Dharma, I avoid use of Hinduism as far as possible. There is another easy argument by Manmohan Vaidyaji who says that if Radhakrishnan ji had written the book in Hindi, he would have called it Hindutva. If Savarkar had written his book in English, he would have called it Hinduism. For him, Hinduism and Hindutva are interchangeable words. But in general, Hinduism is a offensive word created by the Christian-dominated historians and Christian-dominated philosopher of those times. And we can give it up very easily, or we can rationalize it that it doesn't matter. To start calling Christianism, Islamism a word I use many times. Okay, you can open the floor unless you want me to go through these chats and answer.
Yeah, okay. So what we'll do is typically we do not allow we do not have the facility of opening the floor for the attendees directly answering the questions. They usually post it in Q&A and we take it up from there and answer them. So you may please use the Q&A tab to post your questions. That will be easier for us to ask questions in the order that we receive them. Professor Goel, you had something to say. Can you please post your question in Q&A?
He has posted his question. I think
Yes.
actually professor has put this question, which actually has its own answer. We have already very clearly stated time and again that dharma is very different from religions. Religions basically, as the West understands, depend on one book, and they depend on one particular ideology, which is not at all flexible, which must be taken lock, stock, barrel as it is, which has certain rituals, certain practices. So within Hindu Dharma also there are many religions, which we called sampradayas, which we call different religions. We generally call them sampradaya or panth, where they have certain rituals, certain practices you must follow to be a follower of that particular religion, that particular sampradaya. But we are not militant or violent like other religions, which if you don't agree that Jesus was born of Virgin Mary, you cannot be a Christian. You cannot be a Muslim if you doubt any of the sayings of Muhammad, or if you question Quran in any way, or you say we can modify, change it, or if you believe that Hadith is wrong, though Hadith has multiple versions, but there are certain way of sticking to it. So if you question any of the terms of that particular religion, you're not a member. So similarly, is the case with Sampradaya in a little more flexible way. That if you're a Shakti, you worship Devi. Within there are various other with different Sampradayas. So we are very clear that what is Dharma and what's a religion.
Yeah, in short, I say that religions are something that say my way or the highway, and Dharma is all inclusive, all embracing.
See, to put it another way, none of the gurus who criticized Hindu Dharma or practices of those time were thrown into jail or stoned to death. They became gurus, and they got all the respect, and we created a new sampradaya. So Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Badanti is a living philosophy for dharma, which is not so for religions. So I can say that there is a question of Guru Granth Sahib. I am not that deep a scholar, but having being a Punjabi and having written a book on Guru Nanak Dev, I can say that there are some books which are written from a Hindu perspective. I would say on a very broader perspective as compared to very narrow perspective of Sikh historians of today. But there is no, I have not seen, in fact, in my book on Guru Nanak, I had a chapter where I tried to draw parallels between the Vedantic or Gita's view of Punarjanma, Karma, etc., as vis-a-vis as presented by Guru Nanak Dev. As there are 13 books published by Indira Gandhi University, IGNCA in Delhi, of which one was mine. There are others also. In my book, I remember I clearly mentioned how they are more close to a Vedantic view of Hindu Dharmic view, and none of it is close to any way close to Islam, Christianity. Guru Nanak Dev doesn't quote even once any Quranic any Quran at all. Doesn't quote Muhammad. He doesn't quote Bible at all, though he was in knowledge of all these religions. He went all the way to Makkah to have debate there, but he never used those references. He used some references of Sufis because he wanted the people who converted through the Sufi Marg to stay close to Hindu Dharma, to Sikhi. And that is how this particular idea, but I'm sorry that there are very serious books which pick up this idea. There is Professor, I think, I forget the name now, who was VC of Punjab University, who is doing some books, who has done wonderfully, Jagbir Singh, Professor Jagbir Singh, who continuously talks about parallels between the Vedantic thought and the Guru Granth Sahib, and wonderful speeches. If you search for him on YouTube, you might find him. He's the one I know who has written and who has spoken a lot about parallels between Vedantic thought and Guru Nanak Dev. So that's all I can say at this moment.
Yeah, we have a comment from Chitu Ji Jhaveri, says Ratan Ji, Koti Koti Naman to you for very important work that you're doing. You rightly said it is we as Hindus and Sanatanis who have to support this movement. This is such an important statement. Unless and until Hindus, all the Hindus come together, all the Sanatanis come together, this movement, which is the academic study of Hinduism, engaging ourselves in the academic study of Hinduism, this movement should be supported. And unless all the Hindus come forward, this cannot go forward. And I am in fundraising in HUA, and I understand. No one understands it better than me and my president, Kalyanji, how difficult it is to get money out of a Hindu pocket. I've been on the Christian side also. I've been in the fundraising in Christian side also. A movement like this would not have taken so many years to build to come to wherever we are today, uh, if it was in the Christian environment. I mean, the giving culture is embedded into the Christian and Islamic DNA. That is where we are
Esther, I
supposed
would
to
just
go.
like to add to this that when you say it is embedded in Islam and Christianity, because the custom of tithe or zakat is inbuilt in the religion, and because you have to go as per the religious dictates, you have to have tithe paid, you have to have tithe or tithe, I don't know whether it's a term,
Tithe.
is tithe or
The
tithe,
tithe.
and
The
also the
10%.
zakat that you pay,
Yeah.
which becomes the major source for income. It can be 10%, it can be 5%. I think 10% in tithe is 10%. And zakat also is very a good amount of money. Sikhs also, it is not written there any granth, but as a habit, they also very generously donate to religious causes.
Causes.
And even if there are 10 families, they will build a very good gurdwara in that particular village. Way off all over the world, you'll find this. So this contribution culture in India, we still try to find some loose coins in the pocket when you go to the temple, because though dana is a very, very long tradition, there are wonderful stories
True.
of King Rantidev, etc., but those stories are not told. Those stories remain only for the religious discourses. Till this nature of dana, that you must do dana of tanamana dhan, we keep on saying, in some way you must contribute to the society, that building dharamshalas, building gurukuls was the duty of the people who made money. So it was the business people, trading class who built these universities. This after all, how did Nalanda come up? How did Takshila come up? How come scores of universities across India came up? They were not built on Chavanni or Thanni set put in the temple box. They were big danas given by the big traders, and that is how they came up. Villages are supposed to take care of the Gurukul, of the teacher's salary, and also upkeep of that particular temple. So that money came from the village, it didn't come from anywhere else. If a village could create enough money, enough fund to take care of school or Gurukul or temple and the Vaidya, this means the culture was there. Somewhere we have lost it, and we have to rekindle that urge. Even today, millions are being donated by Hindus to American universities for the sake of a brand of name in that particular university, though they have no say at all in the policy of that particular university or a chair what they're going to research. So people like Wendy Doniger sit on chair of Hindu studies and throw all the kind of poisonous academic work at us. So unless Hindus realize that an institute can be good for contribution only if creates literature, creates academic studies which are as per Hindu Dharma, as per Hindu scriptures, and not as just because they want some name there. So this urge to be seen, to see their name on some big plaque is very important. In India, if you go to temples, you have tiles from some village. Somebody from Agarwalji came to this temple, so he donated 2 tiles, he donated 100 tiles. It is there, and they built those. In fact, there is a very wonderful story of a Rajasthani person who was very thrifty, who would even drink the tea by throwing away the the bee out of tea. But when the time came to put a foundation of a temple, which needed about 50 tons of ghee or something like that, he said, "Take it from me." So same person who people thought of thrifty actually was ready for doing the dharmic duty. That urge has to be woken up, and that urge to understand that when you contribute, it has to be good for the society, for the good of the dharma. It is not just for putting a namesake on the board where everything is actually NTU. So same Mahindra or same Tata who have donated billions, or Ambanis who have donated billions to Harvard and other universities, ultimately will face the flag of Hindu phobia from the same university. So you rear a child who throws mud at you. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I get on an average in a month at least 6 to 8 letters, emails from parents whose kids are either contemplating conversion or have converted to Christianity. And 9 out of 10 experiences that they share with me includes something like, we are very liberal Hindus. We have given our kids a lot of liberty, and we have told them that all religions are the same, and we ourselves don't know about Hinduism. This is a very common thing that I hear. We don't know what Hinduism is. And these are parents, well established, well earning parents who have no clue of how to answer their kids' questions. That is where I say institutions like Hindu University of America comes in. And every Hindu parent must take courses at Hindu University of America. I think unless and until we as parents engage in the academic study of Hinduism, I don't think we can raise good Hindu kids in our
See,
nation.
we can start by asking the parents to ask their compatriot Christians and Muslims in their locality, in their churches, whether they believe all religions are same. Very simple question.
Yeah, yeah,
You ask them whether you believe that all religions are same, and they will very clearly tell you they don't believe all religions are same.
correct.
They
You
very
have,
clearly say it.
yes,
There is a story of Swami Dayanand, who in I think year 2000 there was a World Religious Parliament, and he insisted that there must be a particular sentence that all religions are same. We respect all religions. There was
correct.
3 days of very strong debate and very strong questioning, and they would not bend to that particular demand. And people started saying, Swamiji, you are spoiling the entire parliament. It will go fail. It will fail itself. And you should not insist on this, but insisted. Finally, they wrote something like that all religions are equal, respect all religions. But within a month, the Christian journal, religious journal, they said, we don't believe that all religions are same. So once they say that, then they must ask themselves whether their own intellectual laziness of saying all religions are same makes any sense.
No. Yeah. So, Ravi Khanna has asked how many and what courses need to be taken for Hindu studies. Ravi ji, I will have our admissions team reach out to you if that is okay. They will walk you through the courses and what needs to be taken for Hindu studies. If you mean what courses at HUA need to be taken for Hindu studies, then I will have the admissions team reach out to you. And then we have Indrani Ram Prasad asking, does the term Hindu include Islam and Christianity, for example? And if it does, should Hindu studies include such studies too? So the term Hindu does not include Islam and Christianity, but there is something called comparative religion, religious studies, where we get to study other religions, comparative religions. Like in the seminary, I studied about Hinduism, world religions. As part of world religions, I studied about Islam, I studied about Hinduism. So this is comparative religion. So
I
if
think it's very important that we have comparative religious studies. I think that is something that you must promote in the parents, at least in the people who are the children, because the people make this statement without studying. And I remember an episode, very sad episode, where a very prominent and very popular guru, I will not name him because he's too respected, I respect him, had a debate with Zakir Naik. Zakir Naik came all prepared, and it was a YouTube debate. You can still find it on the net. And the guru came with all the goody dialogues like all religions are same, spiritualism. That was the only argument he had, while Zakir Naik had all the arguments. And that was boasted by the Muslims, by Islamists, that how the guru was defeated, he had no knowledge at all. While Zakir Naik was point to point rebutting everything that was said. And that's how it ended up, because the religious leaders, the spiritual leaders must have a comparative study, and we as citizens, as common people, as common Hindus, must have some inkling of the basis of other religions, just the basics, if you don't want to get into details also. And then you can find out what's happening. If you don't want to read Quran directly, there are books by Sitaram Goel, Ram Sarup ji, who clearly talks about what is the philosophy. So once you know that, then you can talk with a more authority. You can still say or just are same. You still believe that, but first clear your mind. First understand our religion. We don't even know. We live with. We are born with it. There is no baptization. There is no sunnat. Because you are born with it, you believe you know everything. When I was asked to write on Guru Nanak, I was scared. I said, okay, in my village, I have Gurdwara. I have visited Gurdwaras umpteen times. My family has Sikhs with me. My bhabhi is a Sikh. As if I know Sikhi like my back of my hand, because it's part of my family tradition. But when I had to write, I realized I'm not really ready. So I had to read a lot. I had to include a person with me, Rajan Khanna ji, who has a good study, to help me do the study and do the research. And that is how I could understand Sikhi better, Guru Nanak better. So we must study our own religion also. We must, I say it is a precondition that all of you take up comparative religion in Hindu University of America to really start believing what you say.
right. So, as part of rhetoric, we can say a lot of things, but academically speaking, this is an academic setup, and I will answer only from the academic perspective. And by that definition, uh, the only way students of HUA can study about other religions or other theologies like Islamic theology or Christian theology is through the field of comparative religion. If when courses in comparative religion are offered, they can be taken. And in other words, I call this the Shatru Bodh. And I have talked about this on several platforms. And this should actually be a very important part of Hindu studies. I hope the universities that are offering Hindu studies programs uh, offer comparative religion also as one of their subjects.
Rani is insisting on a question which I must answer because it says that RSS says
Can
that
you should
Islam and
refer,
Christian.
yeah, yeah, please.
So I would just say that, see, we are talking of Bharat. We are not talking of global Hindu Dharma. We are talking of Bharat. We are talking of Hindu as a citizen, as a geocultural citizen of that particular country. That is the reason we say that see, the Christians and Muslims in Bharat, 99.9% are converted from Hindu Dharma. They didn't come from foreign lands. They are Bharatiyas. So RSS says that if you believe in the Hindu ethos, if you believe in Hindu traditions, if you believe that Hinduism is my history, if you believe that Ram is my forefather, if you have that pride in Hindu culture, you are a Hindu. That is a that is a geocultural issue of Bharat as a country. But if you read Vishnu Parishad's definition of Hindutva, you will find it, or Hindu Dharma, it is different from what RSS is saying for the social requirement of Bharat. So don't take it literally across the world. It is very clear we are talking of the citizens of Bharat who by their own genetics are Hindus. That is the reason the Islam of Bharat was very different till 1970, 78, 79 when petrodollars entered and radicalization happened. If you look at Kerala Christians, they have their own church, they have their own feeling, they are very strongly patriotic Indians. They do not like the domination of Roman Catholic Church at all. That is what you mean when you say you are Hindus, because for us, Hindu is a terminology used for the people who stay in Hindustan, in Bharat. So let us not mix up those issues at the global stage. When you talk of Dharma, you're talking of a very different concept. And in fact, there is a chapter in my book, Evolution of RSS from Organization to a Movement, expanding scope of Hindutva. And it's a very critical chapter. It's nearly at the end of the book. So you can try on the Kindle or wherever you'll find that chapter interesting, intriguing, also questioning. You can question it. But where I try to explain how definition of Ditva keeps expanding. Ranga Hariji says, he quotes one of the poem where he says, somebody tried to draw a circle around himself or herself, trying to distinguish oneself. I do a larger circle to take them in. It's a poet of our, the poetry I've quoted in the chapter. But what I mean is that we have to have that particular expanding scope in Bharat. But essence of Hindutva doesn't go. We don't compromise on what is the essence of Hindu Dharma. That is not at all compromised even in RSS ideology. But yes, very clearly, the people who stay here have their own ancestors who are Hindus. That is why we have Sufis. That's why we have different schools of Islam. Similar thing is also in Indonesia, where there has been strong resistance to the radicalized Islam, where you in Bharat you never found burqas and jalida topes in Muslims, even in Kerala or even in Rajasthan till 80s, 1978 onwards. So this creeping radicalization. Now somebody will say Islam is radical by itself, Islam is not good by itself, but there are people who believe that some part of the Islam are to be rejected because the times have changed. So unless we insist on this, how do we strengthen the elements which want to reform Islam? That is the only way. So there is different battlefield in Bharat as compared to the global battlefield. I hope I'm very frank and clear about it.
Excellent. Yeah, that's very excellently addressed. Thank you so much. Yogini Ji Kulkarni Sharma is asking, is there comparative religion course that HUA offers? Not yet, as I said, when very soon, I think it should be offered. It would be offered in the near future. And when that happens, we will definitely reach out to you.
Esther, you can start one course since you already are expert at it.
Yeah, but I know. Soon, yes. So, so we are on the top of the hour. We have one more poll to be launched. We would like your feedback on this webinar, on the experience of this webinar.
There is a typical complaint from SM Krishnaji saying that why RSS has poor PR setup. I can give a long answer, I can give a short answer. The reason I started writing at the age of 50 was because I believed that RSS has a poor PR setup. One thing. Secondly, it is also that it is ingrained in the thinking of RSS that even today, the so-called Prachar Vibhag, or I should not so-called Prachar Vibhag, doesn't do Prachar, it only spreads what is true. So the briefing to the Prachar Vibhag people is that present only what is there. Don't try to magnify it, don't try to make it bigger than what it is. And also share good work of other people in the society, also of Sanatan Dharma, and promote everybody. So even today, there is no propaganda machinery in RSS. It is not supposed to be propaganda at all. It is purely what I call dissemination of information, and that is being done. And till 1990, there was no Prachar Vibhag in RSS. Try to digest that. The RSS came into being into 1925. It suffered the worst kind of negative publicity in 1947-48, despite doing sterling work for the Hindus and Sikhs during partition. And the fear of its popularity led to the ban and all those things that happened. Now, after 1950, it was such a debilitated state because first partition, uh, where Hindus were uprooted, then the fight to save Hindus and Sikhs, which led to uprooting of their families, their business, and everything. Then the ban, when thousands of people lost their livelihood, lost their businesses, their houses were burnt after Gandhiji's assassination. And in a difficult time, when in 1949 July, RSS finally reorganized itself, there were many people who had doubt whether RSS will survive. There were Swayamsevak who said, freedom to mil gaya, because in the oath-taking ceremony, oath-taking in RSS, there is a sentence which said, I am joining RSS as its part to fight for the freedom of Hindu Rashtra. Now that is over, so we should get into social service, we should get into politics, because politics didn't give us any support. And Guruji said, unless Hindu society is organized the way Dr. Ji said, everything else is false. So I will start RSS work from scratch if required. In that difficult situation, he said, stop, don't interact with media, don't get into prachar and all, because ultimately we are serving the motherland, one. Secondly, just concentrate on rebuilding the organization. So till 1973, till Guruji was there, it was continuous rebuilding of the organization, which saw the emergence of Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad, Bharatiya Jansangh, Vishwa Hindu Parishad, Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, and scores of organizations which were apart from the Sangh's pure work of Shakha. So having built such a huge organization, when Bala Sahib Deras took up, he realized that we need to now spread our word also. So he started some outreach with the media, with the political parties, and with other people. And under him, the Prachar Vyavha was established. But with the kind of psychological training that we are not supposed to self-praise, we are not supposed to promote anything or promote RSS or do any propaganda of RSS work, that thinking became an excuse of not going aggressively or countering the negative propaganda extensively against these people. And the 50th, from 1950 to 1947 to 1990, they had a free field of demonizing RSS, not giving any importance to Seva Karya, to organizational work, to discipline, character building, and all the service it is for the society, whether it was war or whether it was famine. These people put it down, and this negative publicity will take time to fight, and you have entire academia against you, which was nurtured by the Congress system for 70 years. So that's it. That is why you find PR being weak, etc. But now, if you look at the literature that is coming up, whether by RSS or by people who support Hindutva now, whether look at the response you get on TV or YouTube, etc., it's very clear that slowly that work is being understood, that work is being appreciated, and people themselves. In fact, one interesting nugget is when I released the book at that time, we were just picking up. So 2007-8, when I wrote the first book, at that time there was this saffron terror story, Hindu terror story. And at that time, RSS had launched a web portal, not very well designed, of course, because you rightly said, for the reasons, as you know, there was not much attention, but there was a portal which had a lot of information about RSS. It had a button called Join RSS. That button became so popular that thousands of people put their name there saying they want to join RSS. Why? Because the young people thought, what is so wrong with RSS? what is wrong with Hindu Dharma, why it is called terrorist, why they are called being saffron terror. So the negative propaganda by the left and the secular lobby resulted in people getting attracted to RSS. Though we believe that 2014 was a big leap for RSS, but I have seen the trend starting somewhere in 2007-8, when people used to come and tell me why there is talk of saffron terror, why there is talk of Hindu terror, etc. So that is how the internet helped RSS a lot, by people coming, inquiring, and trying to join RSS. And now the number of people who have come through web portal runs into lakhs, as you see the report of RSS. So this is how this thing's built up.
Thank you so much, Ratanji. So Poonamji has an answer about comparative religion, religious studies at HUA. She says she's taking interfaith marriage class, and that course has comparative components. But comparative religion is more to do with the deeper theology, and then comparing the theologies of both of whatever religions are being compared. I'm sure interfaith marriage class also has those comparisons, and that's a good course to explore, and very much needed in this day and age where more and more Hindu kids are leaning towards marrying people of other religions, and it's ultimately the Hindu kid that crosses over to the other side, and it's never the other way around. So this is a very important class, and all the Hindu parents that are raising Hindu kids must take this class. So
There is an article by a Hindu advocate on it was simply an academic article. There was no insinuation of any kind, that what happens when a girl converts and marries a Muslim gentleman. And he told very clearly how her rights are curtailed, how her liberty is compromised, and that all. It was an article which went viral. So even such simple answers: what happens when you change your religion? What happens when you convert to get married to another person of the religion? That should be clearly understood, because US has its own laws, UK its own law. At the same time, the actually you get totally uprooted from your own traditions and cultures. And there are hundreds of stories in Bharat about girls being tricked into marrying first by false names, then after they are forced to convert, then they live a life of hell. And there are very few elite families where girls or boys who are converted have a good life. And it's horrendous because it is based on religious diktats. It is not based on personal choice. And if you read Avaran by K. Bhairappa, which is translated in English, you will understand the dilemma of a progressive girl who gets married to a progressive Muslim, and how that liberalism finally washes out. A very wonderful, eye-opening story where you have parallels of Mughal times and the current times. So you'll understand nothing changes in centuries of uh, development of religions in various areas. Actually, the basic ideology doesn't change. I don't know whether Nissan Creed is still valid, which Rajiv Malhotra quotes. Esther would know better. So those ideas have to be understood. And I believe that Christianity, because it became liberalized, has lost its sting and lost its followers. That may be another reason, because that is the way that religion was built. But one must understand. So a simple question answer also, which can be put in print and which can be shared with right quotations, with right information, even staying totally neutral, can open the eyes of many people. Like you rightly said, why only Hindu gets converted for marriage? Why Christian or Muslim doesn't get converted? Now that is happening in Bharat slowly, but because it's very difficult to stay alive if you do that.
So, with that, I think we have crossed our 1 hour limit, but thank you so much, Ratanji, for your valuable time.
Dhanyavad.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much to all the attendees here. Thanks for your questions, valuable questions. And we hope to see you next week again. Namaste.
Namaste.
Yeah, namaste, Suji.